Hello there, I'm the Star Wars guy. Welcome to our Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes 2020 Fleet Showcase, where today we're talking about the Malevolence and the Separatist Fleet. The Malevolence is the capital ship and driving force behind one of the three most prominent fleets in the game currently, the Separatists. It synergizes strongly with Separatists, but has room for both droids and bounty hunters in its fleets. Now, as for its place in the meta, Malevolence fleets are currently only powerful on offense. They can defeat maxed out negotiator fleets quite reliably, and Han's Falcon Rebel fleets somewhat less reliably. This is all dependent on the lineups being used and the gear level of the pilots, though. On defense, however, Malevolence fleets are easily beaten, with only a couple lineups occasionally giving trouble to non-maxed fleets. So the way you should expect a battle with Malevolence to play out against a negotiator fleet is a battle of attrition. Negotiator fleets have huge damage output and speed, so they usually gain the initial advantage in battle, sometimes even destroying one of the ships on your front line before you can get to your first reinforcement. Your goal should be to inflict buzz droids on Anakin's Eta 2 starfighter and try to target his ship as often as possible with stuns, blind, or high damage attacks. However, thanks to Houndstooth, the BTLB Y-Wing, Clone Sergeant, and Plo Koon, it can be difficult to get to Anakin's Eta 2. So often you will find yourself tanking massive damage from Eta 2 while you wait for the battle to turn tide. For this reason, it's very important to bring your frontline ships to the highest star and gear levels possible. It also makes the Hyena Bomber and IG-2000 combo very potent, since Hyena recovers health and protection every turn that any ship takes. You should be aiming to outlast your opponent and slowly whittle away at them with the damage increase from buzz droids and overcharge. Often you'll get stuck behind Houndstooth, since Houndstooth can cleanse itself of buzz droids, thereby greatly reducing the damage you can inflict to it. This may even result in a battle going till you reach your ultimate ability, at which point you'll be able to easily take out Houndstooth and clean up whatever else is left. Now about Rebel fleets, these are somewhat more hit and miss. Since Han's Millennium Falcon can dispel with his basic attack, it's very hard to hide any ships behind Hyena Bomber. For this reason, it's better to use tanky ships on the front line against Rebel fleets such as Houndstooth and Sun Fac. Strategy against Rebel fleets is to try and take down Biggs and any other Rebel ships that are either on the board or called in as reinforcements as quickly as possible. You do this to limit the potential damage output of the fleet, since your only options for taking out Han's Falcon are using Geospy's reinforcement ability, taking out all other ships, or reaching your ultimate ability. Ignore Houndstooth wherever you can, or if you do get stuck behind that tanky bounty hunter ship, burst it down as quickly as possible. Make sure to stun it if you can, to prevent it from cleansing itself of buzz droids. To summarize, Rebel fleets have a chance of completely destroying you with high damage assist chains. If this doesn't happen, you'll win. It's quite RNG reliant, but less so with a tanky front line. Now let's talk about some notable ships that make up the Separatist fleet. First we have Malevolence. She's the powerhouse that makes Separatist fleets as strong as they are. It is one of the two ships available from the Guild Event Store and Guild Event Tokens Mark II, the other being the Negotiator. The Malevolence itself is crewed by the terrifying General Grievous, one of the primary leaders of the Confederacy of Independent Systems, also known as the CIS, also known as the Separatists. This monstrous capital ship possesses a mighty ion cannon that devastates enemy capital ships and lays waste to entire Galactic Republic fleets. The Malevolence's strength is threefold: buzz droids, overcharge, and its ability to summon Vulture Droids. Buzz droids are a debuff inflicted by the Hyena Bomber and Vulture Droids, which reduce the defense of the affected ship by 50% and cause it to lose 5% of its max health at the start of its turn, similar to how thermal detonators work for the bounty hunters. Malevolence triples these effects. So an enemy afflicted with any buzz droids will have minus 150% defense and lose 15% of its max health at the start of its turn. It's important to note that the effects of buzz droids do not stack with each other, so even if a ship has 3 buzz droids, it will still only have a 50% penalty to defense and lose only 5% max health. Tripled when Malevolence is your capital ship, of course. When an affected enemy is damaged by an attack or concussion mine, it loses 1 stack of buzz droids. Buzz droids can be dispelled, however, due to Vulture Droid's unique ability, Swarming Terror. If an enemy's buzz droids are dispelled, that enemy will be inflicted with ability block, which cannot be resisted. Another benefit of the Vulture Droid's unique ability is that buzz droids reset to 3 stacks at the start of the affected enemy's turn. Now, Overcharge is a buff that Malevolence can apply to allied ships with its Charging Malevolence ability. Overcharge gives the affected ally 20% offense and 20% defense per stack and can stack up to 5 times. Whenever a Separatist or Droid ally uses a basic ability, it will also gain a stack of Overcharge. Whenever Malevolence calls in a reinforcement, that ship will gain a stack of Overcharge too. All instances of Overcharge currently in the game will last for 2 turns. Malevolence summons a Vulture Droid whenever it uses one of its 3 special abilities, if there is space on the battlefield. The abilities that will summon a Vulture Droid are called Charging Malevolence, All Cannons Fire, and Fire the Ion Cannon. It's important to note that summoned Vulture Droids are not the same as the Vulture Droid in your roster. The stats of the summoned Vulture Droids are based on the Malevolence, even the stats of the one that gets summoned when your regular Vulture Droid is destroyed. To this end, always remember that summoned Vulture Droids are weaker than the non-summoned Vulture Droids. Summoned Vulture Droids also do not inflict buff immunity with their special ability. Some other important features of the Malevolence's kit include a single target cleanse from the Charging Malevolence ability, which will also call the targeted ally to assist. Keep in mind that this assist call only occurs when the ability is max level, meaning the ship must be 7 stars. The ability to stun an enemy with Malevolence's basic attack. This stun has a 100% chance to occur, but can be evaded or resisted. An area of effect attack that deals more damage for each stack of overcharge that allies have, and also inflicts offense down on enemies. This is the All Cannons Fire ability. An ultimate ability on a 5-turn cooldown from the start of the battle called Fire the Ion Cannon. This strips all buffs from all enemies, removes all protection from all enemies, removes all turn meter from all enemies, even the capital ship, stuns the enemy capital ship, and prevents enemy ships that were hit with the Ion Cannon ability from regaining protection for the rest of the match. Lastly, Malevolence gives all Separatist allies plus 50% crit avoidance and gains 30% turn meter whenever an allied Vulture Droid is destroyed. The next ship to examine in this fleet is the Vulture Droid. This ship fits snugly in all Malevolence fleets as both a frontline ship and a reinforcement. If you are working on a Malevolence fleet, you should be working on getting your Vulture Droid to 7 stars as fast as possible. The Vulture Droid becomes powerful in large part for all the synergy it has with Malevolence, since it is both a droid and a Separatist, and is uniquely written into Malevolence's kit. On the front line, the Vulture Droid serves well to draw fire from enemy ships, to shield other ships like IG-2000 who need to be protected. Once destroyed, the Vulture Droid summons a weaker replacement and also gives Malevolence 30% turn meter, sometimes allowing a slower capital ship to keep up with a significantly faster Negotiator or Home 1. It also gives Hyena Bomber a boost to its defense and tenacity. As a reinforcement, Vulture Droid inflicts blind and buzz droids on all enemies, and also calls a random droid ally to assist. To this end, Vulture Droid is a very valuable reinforcement as it prevents enemies from dealing damage for a turn, spreads buzz droids, and can call an assist all before it actually takes its turn and inflicts more buzz droids and buff immunity on an enemy ship. If using Vulture Droid as a reinforcement, you'll want to make sure there's at least one other Separatist on the front line next to Hyena Bomber, as each Separatist ally gives Hyena 50% extra defense. There are some important interactions and bugs with Vulture Droids to make note of. At the time this video was made, there is a bug that makes it so summoned Vulture Droids will not be called to assist when they should if they have not yet taken a turn. Only one Vulture Droid can be called to assist at a time when a Separatist or droid ally targets a ship with buzz droids. This has been confirmed by CG to be working as intended. A Vulture Droid will not be summoned to replace a defeated Vulture Droid if there are 5 ships on the friendly battlefield when the Vulture Droid is destroyed. This is a bug. Possibly the most crucial ship in the Malevolence fleet, the Hyena Bomber is a tough, taunting tank that can inflict buzz droids on enemies and help take down ships hidden behind taunt. Hyena's best use is on the front line, since at 7 stars it's able to tank a lot of damage output from even maxed out Negotiator fleets. It also has a poor reinforcement ability. It's useful to note that Hyena Bomber will cleanse the lowest health Separatist ally of any debuffs when it uses its basic attack. This can be very helpful if your Vulture Droids have been dazed. Next up is IG-2000. IG-2000 is a shoe-in for the Malevolence fleet because of its droid synergy. In any Malevolence fleet, IG-2000 has 3 main advantages. First, it provides a passive heal ability that will restore Hyena Bomber's health and protection over time. This is especially helpful since Hyena has so much survivability. Second, IG-2000 will call a Vulture Droid to assist when attacking an enemy inflicted with buzz droids. And third, a fully maxed IG-2000 will be 1 speed faster than Anakin Zeta 2, giving you the ability to land a stun on him before his first turn and before Houndstooth can taunt. Keep in mind, however, that IG-2000 is not a Separatist, so he does not gain crit avoidance from Malevolence and does not give Hyena Bomber a boost to defense. For this reason, if you plan to put IG-2000 on the front line, you should have IG-88 at Relic 5 or higher so that he can hopefully survive the first wave of damage each round. IG-2000 can work perfectly well at gear level 12, but in this case, it's better suited to being used as a reinforcement. Up next is Geonosian Spy's Starfighter. Geospy is possibly the most valuable reinforcement for a Malevolence fleet. He has the Separatist tag, so he gains that crit avoidance from Malevolence and also triggers Vulture Droid assists on targets with Buzz Droids. But the greatest strengths that Spy brings to the battlefield are his reinforcement ability, which applies a forced taunt debuff to both the target enemy and a random other enemy, and the only mass assist in fleet currently. Spy serves best as a reinforcement because on the front line he is a ripe target despite his ability to stealth when he takes damage. And without him as a reinforcement, you lose his valuable reinforcement ability. This ability allows you to shift focus away from Houndstooth, who is quite often a huge pain for Malevolence fleets to deal with. It's also important to remember that his mass assist ability only calls Separatist ships to assist. Yet another reason not to flood your lineup with too many non-Separatist ships. Sunfox Geonosian Starfighter. Sunfox is an excellent tank with high versatility in a Malevolence fleet. He auto-taunts, can provide lots of stuns, and has the Separatist tag. Sunfox's primary purpose in any position is to stall and keep your fleet alive until your ultimate ability comes off cooldown. On the front line, he serves to take enemy attention away from Hyena Bomber or any other softer ships you may have up there. In this role, Sunfox often goes down quite quickly, but he does give Hyena Bomber extra defense, meaning that once he's destroyed, Hyena won't have taken much damage and still has plenty of health and protection to get through. As a reinforcement, he provides an irresistible stun, which can be helpful for keeping Houndstooth from self-cleansing Buzz Droids or for controlling high-damage enemies. Bossk's Houndstooth. Houndstooth is fairly straightforward. He provides for Malevolence fleet the same thing he provides for any other fleet, as he's currently the best plug-and-play ship in the game. He's able to tank absurd amounts of damage, especially when relicked, and gains turn meter when allies are attacked. If you're going to use Houndstooth in this fleet, you'll probably want to put him on the front line to fulfill a similar role to Sunfox, stalling the match out. The only reason to use him as a reinforcement is if you have a preferred starting lineup that does not include him, but you want an option to bring him into the match anyway. Geonosian Soldier Starfighter. Geonosian Soldier is difficult to find a spot for in a Malevolence fleet. He primarily serves as a source of assists and extra damage, but doesn't provide the mass assist call, stealth, and ability to get around taunts that Spy does. Soldier is more of an option if you try and run a Geo-heavy lineup, with Sunfox on the front line and Spy as first reinforcement. This still presents a problem in that Malevolence fleets often don't call a second or third reinforcement. All of that being said, Soldier does gain the crit avoidance bonus from Malevolence, calls extra Vulture Droids to assist when attacking Buzz Droid afflicted targets, and gives Hyena Bomber extra defense. So if you don't have a ship to place in a later slot as a reinforcement, or you aren't able to use a more optimal ship, Soldier can still be effective. Han's Millennium Falcon. Han's Falcon can create an interesting and unique interaction in Malevolence fleets. Since the Falcon can make itself untargetable, it can force your opponent to attack your Vulture Droids, giving Malevolence turn meter and allowing it to flood the board with more Vulture Droids and get to its ultimate ability faster. This method is not very effective against the strongest Negotiator and Rebel fleets, but can be somewhat aggravating to face on defense, and also allow you to eke out a win on offense if you're missing certain other key parts of the fleet, like Hyena Bomber. Han's Falcon therefore makes a great late reinforcement. You likely won't use the ship on offense unless you're trying to cheese the match, but having it in your lineup can help prevent you from dropping too far if your opponent is not prepared to handle this combination. Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter. Plo Koon is another extremely useful plug-and-play ship. Despite its lack of synergy with the Separatist fleet, it does provide something crucial. When called as a reinforcement, Plo Koon heals all allies and cleanses all debuffs. This is especially useful against the Negotiator to clear away days from Vulture Droids or keep your fleet alive after Negotiator has used its ultimate against you. Plo can also put Taunt back on your Hyena Bomber and give him a small protection boost. Now, there's absolutely no reason to use Plo Koon on the front line, as his reinforcement ability is his primary strength in this fleet. So if you use him, put him in the reinforcements. Honorable mentions for the Separatist fleet include the Ebon Hawk for its mass buff strip reinforcement ability, Cassian's U-Wing, also for its mass buff strip reinforcement ability, as well as its targeted assist call. Xanadu Blood, for its synergy with Breach and the other two bounty hunter ships that get used in the fleet. And Gauntlet Starfighter, for its mass cleanse and protection up, as well as the plus 25% defense it provides all allies. Malevolence fleets are essentially 4 or 5 ship fleets. Malevolence is unique among fleets currently, as it asks you to step away from the conventional fleet arena strategy of calling as many reinforcements as possible as often as possible. Instead, when running this fleet, you are forced to choose between summoning new Vulture Droids and bringing in extra reinforcements, and that choice is not as clear-cut as you'd think. Often you will finish the match without ever bringing in your second, third, or fourth reinforcements. The simple reason for this is that your board quickly becomes flooded with Vulture Droids. Let's play a typical Malevolence versus Negotiator fleet matchout. During the opening salvo, you often lose a ship. Depending on what lineup you're running, this could be the IG-2000, one of the Geos, or Vulture Droid. I find that Vulture Droid is the preferable option as a new Vulture Droid is summoned immediately, and Malevolence gains 30% turn meter. On Malevolence's first turn, you summon a Vulture Droid. This brings your board presence up to 3 or 4 ships. At this point, it becomes less and less likely that you lose any more ships, as Hyena has begun to taunt more reliably with all the applications of Buzz Droids and Vulture Droids on the field. You usually reach your first reinforcement call with room for only 1 more ship on the board, bringing you up to 4 or 5 ships on the board after Malevolence's second turn. Third turn, you may have lost another ship, but if you have, it will now be replaced with a Vulture Droid if you use one of Malevolence's special attacks, keeping you at 4 or 5 ships. Fourth turn, you now can either use Charging Malevolence again and summon another Vulture Droid if there is room on the board, or call a reinforcement. At this point, you have to weigh the value of having another Separatist droid ship on the board against bringing in a second reinforcement for what that reinforcement has to offer. Fifth turn. If you didn't summon a reinforcement on the previous turn and there's room on the board, you'll likely summon your second reinforcement here. Sixth turn. You've now reached Malevolence's ultimate ability, which puts the match heavily in your favor. It also summons another Vulture Droid if you have room on the board. If you even make it to Malevolence's 7th turn, you should be very close to winning the match. At this point, it no longer matters if you summon a reinforcement or use one of Malevolence's abilities. So in summary, at most you will only ever use 2 reinforcements in a match. Your final 1 to 2 reinforcements, depending on the star level of your Malevolence, are almost completely irrelevant. There's a lot of ships that feel like they could provide something useful to the Malevolence fleet. However, Malevolence and the 2 Separatist droid ships provide a lot of synergy to Separatists and droids, which needs to be considered when thinking about utilizing other ships. So here's the main reasons to avoid using too many non-Separatist or droid ships. They don't gain overcharge by using basic attacks, decreasing the overall offense and defense of the fleet, and decreasing the amount of damage that the Malevolence's AoE puts out. Remember that overcharge boosts offense and defense for the ship that has it. They don't call Vulture Droids to assist on enemies with Buzz Droids, even though they do use up Buzz Droids. This takes away a lot of extra damage output from the fleet. They don't get plus 50% crit avoidance from Malevolence, which can be a death sentence against high crit fleets like Rebels. They don't give Hyena Bomber extra defense. It's important to remember that only Separatists give Hyena a defense boost, droids do not, so this is why using IG-2000 and Houndstooth both on the front line may not work terribly well. You want at least 1 defense boost for Hyena at the start of the match to keep the ship's health and protection nice and high for when you start summoning Vulture Droids and Hyena becomes truly painful to get through. They won't get cleansed by Hyena's basic attack, though this can be a good thing since it can help you ensure that your Vulture Droids are getting Hyena's cleanse rather than Geospy or Soldier. And finally, they take up a slot that could be filled by a ship that does some or all of the above. This is the really big thing to consider. A lot of ships really need the above bonuses to be strong, but having too many ships that remove Buzz Droids and don't call Vulture Droids to assist on their attacks can heavily impair your damage output, and not having enough passive defense bonuses for Hyena is also a big loss that can make you lose your tankiest ship, which can spell doom for your Malevolence fleet. So, what's the recommended ship strength and upgrade priority? Number 1 is Hyena Bomber. 7 stars. This should be fairly straightforward. Hyena Bomber is the single most important part of this fleet. The sooner you can get him to 7 stars, the stronger your fleet will be. Malevolence. 7 stars with a double Zated Relic 7 Grievous. Another extremely crucial one to gear up and star as fast as you can. Malevolence provides the basis for the stats of your summoned Vulture Droids, so a stronger Malevolence equals stronger Vulture Droids and an all-around stronger fleet. Third is Vulture Droid, 7 stars. Your Vulture Droid is important to star up as quickly as possible for the stat bonuses it brings, but a lower star Vulture Droid won't be as detrimental to your fleet as a low star Hyena or Malevolence. IG-2000, Gear 12+, or Relic 5+ if used on the front line. IG-2000 is like the Biston of a Malevolence fleet. You don't really need the ship, but it can be so useful if you have it at a usable level. On the front line, you need him to be able to survive a lot of high damage, so Relic 5 or better is recommended. But as a reinforcement, he's less likely to be burst down before he has a chance to be useful, so Gear 12 should do fine there. Number 5, Houndstooth, Gear 12+. The strength of your Houndstooth, if you use the ship, is almost equivalent to the strength of your fleet. Any fleet can make do with a Gear 12 Houndstooth, but he's much more painful to deal with the stronger he is. Relic 3 or better will cause your opponent some difficulty. Number 6, Geonosian Spy's Starfighter, Gear 12+. Geospy will usually serve as a reinforcement, and once he's been called in and uses his mass assist call, he isn't super important anymore. Higher gear means higher damage output and survivability, but neither is essential for the role he fills in this fleet. Number 7, Sunfox Geonosian Starfighter, Relic 3 or higher. Sunfox requires relics to live up to his full potential in this fleet, since his primary strength is his auto-taunting and tankiness. If you're using Sunfox on your front line, you definitely want Relic 3 or higher. As a reinforcement, you could probably get away with Gear 12, but it'll be less than optimal. Geonosian Soldier Starfighter, Gear 12+. While higher damage and survivability are definitely desirable and useful, Soldier is not an essential character to Relic for this fleet, and Gear 12 will be plenty for any use he might see as a reinforcement. Han's Millennium Falcon, Gear 11+. Han's Falcon serves one purpose on this fleet, and it doesn't need good stats for that. Simply get the pilots high enough to fully upgrade all abilities, and that'll be enough. And finally, coming in at number 10, Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter Gear 11+. Like Han's Falcon, Plo Koon really only serves one purpose. I recommend Gear 11 or higher, mostly because Plo is easy to gear, and it's nice for him to be able to take a couple of hits, but really, as long as you can max out his reinforcement ability, he's good enough to use. Possible lineups. The following are some strong Malevolence fleet lineups. There isn't one single lineup that is better than the rest in every situation. Each lineup has different strengths. So please use the following as guidelines only. First, IG-2000, Vulture Droid, and Hyena Bomber on your front line, with Geo-Spy and Plo Koon as reinforcements. This lineup requires high star levels for Hyena and Vulture, and a high relic on IG-88. It's very good for keeping Hyena Bomber alive, and works very well when IG-2000 has higher health and protection than Vulture Droid, as opponents will usually target Vulture Droid first. It struggles against Relic Rebel fleets if the RNG is not in your favor, but it has very high success rates against even the strongest negotiator fleets. Second is Vulture Droid, Hyena Bomber, and Sunfox. This fleet relies heavily on Separatist synergy and can help to keep a lower star Hyena Bomber alive longer thanks to Sunfox soaking up damage. Often Sunfox will be destroyed before you reach your first reinforcement, but thanks to the double defense boost that Hyena receives, it will have more health and protection left to help you survive the next few rounds. Houndstooth, IG-2000, Plo Koon, and Geonosian Spy can all make solid reinforcements in this fleet. Spy brings a high damage burst, while Houndstooth, IG-2000, and Plo Koon bring extra sustain. Vulture Droid, Hyena Bomber, and Houndstooth on the front line, with Geo-Spy as a reinforcement. This fleet is quite reliable. It's probably the most solid variation of the Malevolence fleet, as Houndstooth can hold your front line together quite well and help you sustain until you reach the ion cannon. It can work well against both Rebel and Negotiator fleets. It doesn't spike particularly high, and you won't have many wins where you blast through your opponent in record time thanks to good RNG. IG-2000 and Plo Koon both make good secondary reinforcements to follow Geo-Spy in this fleet. And finally, Houndstooth, Hyena Bomber, and Sunfox. I call this the triple tank lineup. This variation of the fleet is almost purely sustain-oriented and works well against Rebel fleets as opposed to other lineups, which try to build a board of Vulture Droids early on. This lineup benefits from the Han's Falcon gimmick, but also can make use of Vulture Droid's excellent reinforcement ability. And that's going to wrap up our Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes 2020 Fleet Showcase, focusing on the Malevolence and the Separatist fleet. I know it's a lot of information, but I hope you got a lot out of it. Thanks so much for watching. Please click subscribe below for more Star Wars content every single day. Do it. And I'll see you in the next video.